The rain hammered the windows of Elias Crow's office like it was trying to drown out the secrets inside. But Roman Hayes could still hear his own heartbeat. Too loud. Too fast. As if it were the only honest thing left in him. He sat there, fingers twisting the frayed edge of his sleeve, staring at the man across from him who looked like he could unravel every lie Roman had ever told himself. "Tell me," Elias said, his voice a low rumble that cut through the storm outside. "What brings you to the edge of everything today?" Roman swallowed hard, the words catching like thorns in his throat. He had driven through the relentless Seattle downpour that morning, wipers slapping rhythmically against the windshield, each swipe a reminder of how far he had fallen since Jake left. Jake, with his easy laugh and promises that evaporated like mist off Puget Sound. 6 months ago, Roman had come home to their Capitol Hill apartment to find Jake's side of the closet bare. A single note on the kitchen counter: "I can't breathe here anymore. No fight. No explosion, just absence. The kind that hollowed you out from the inside." Roman had spent weeks wandering the fog-shrouded streets of Seattle, past the neon glow of Pike Place Market and the shadowed alleys of Pioneer Square, nursing black coffees in dimly lit cafes where baristas knew his order but not his pain. Friends had suggested therapy, their voices gentle over brunches at Elliott Bay Book Company, plates of avocado toast growing cold as they listed numbers and names. But Roman resisted, convinced he could stitch himself back together with late-night runs along the waterfront, the salt air stinging his lungs like a penance. Until last week, when he found himself parked outside the Elliott Bay Therapy Collective, engine idling in the drizzle, tears blurring the dashboard lights. He was 28, a graphic designer scraping by on freelance gigs for indie bands and craft breweries, his portfolio a mosaic of vibrant album covers that hid the grayscale of his days. Roman had always prided himself on his resilience. Growing up in a sprawling Tacoma suburb where his Mexican-American mom ran a taqueria and his Irish dad fixed engines at the shipyard, he learned early that emotions were like oil leaks. Contain them, or they stained everything. But Jake's departure had sprung something deeper, a fracture that let doubt seep in. Was it his fault? The late nights hunched over his laptop, the unspoken fears about commitment in a world that still whispered slurs under its breath? Gay men in their late 20s weren't supposed to unravel. They were supposed to thrive, build lives in the shadow of the Space Needle, date in bustling bars like the Cuff Complex. Elias Crow leaned back in his leather armchair, the one with the faint scent of sandalwood from some diffuser hidden in the corner. He was in his mid-30s, with salt and pepper hair cropped close at the sides, a jawline that spoke of quiet authority, and eyes the color of storm clouds over Lake Washington, gray, probing, pulling you in before you realized you were falling. His office was a sanctuary amid the chaos of Seattle's Queen and neighborhood. Exposed brick walls lined with psychology texts and framed prints of misty Olympic mountains, a ficus plant thriving improbably in the corner, and a worn Persian rug that muffled the world's noise. Elias wore a simple charcoal sweater over a crisp white shirt, sleeves cuffed just so, his wedding band absent but the faint tan line lingering like a ghost. He had been a therapist for a decade, drawn to this work after his own brush with loss, a story he kept locked away, surfacing only in the quiet hours after sessions when he poured bourbon neat and stared at the city lights from his Belltown balcony. Roman shifted on the couch, the cushions too soft, swallowing him like quicksand. "I don't know where to start," he admitted. his voice barely above the patter of rain. It was a lie. He knew exactly where it began, with the ache that woke him at 3 a.m., chest tight as if Jake's hand still pressed there, possessive and gone. Elias nodded, his pen poised over a leather-bound notebook. Not writing yet, just waiting. That pause stretched, heavy with possibility, and Roman felt exposed, peeled back layer by layer under those steady eyes. Start with the last time you felt whole, Elias suggested, his tone even, laced with a warmth that felt dangerously genuine. Roman closed his eyes, the memory flooding in unbidden. A summer evening 2 years back, Jake and he sprawled on a blanket at Gasworks Park. The sunset painting the sky in hues of raspberry and gold. Fireworks from some distant festival popping like laughter. They had kissed there, slow and deep, the world fading to just the two of them, bodies fitting like puzzle pieces Roman never knew were missing pieces of himself. Opening his eyes, he met Elias's gaze, and something shifted, a spark, electric and forbidden, humming in the space between them. The session unfolded in fits and starts, Roman's words tumbling out like debris after a landslide. He spoke of the taqueria shifts where his mom's arroz con pollo filled the air with spice and stories of her youth in Guadalajara. How she hugged him extra tight after he came out at 17, whispering, "Mi corazón, the world is big enough for your light." His dad, gruff Patrick Hayes, had clapped him on the back with a "love's love, kid," over beers in the garage, tools clinking like toasts. Family had been his anchor, yet now it felt adrift. Elias listened, interjecting with questions that sliced clean. "What did Jake's leaving teach you about your own worth?" Roman faltered, the question landing like a punch. Worth. He had designed logos for queer pride events, poured his soul into visuals that screamed visibility. But in the mirror, he saw only fractures. As the clock ticked toward the hour, Elias set his notebook aside. "Healing isn't linear, Roman. It's a Seattle rain, endless, soaking, but it greens everything in time." Roman stood, legs unsteady, the handshake lingering a beat too long, Elias's palm warm against his chilled skin. Outside, the downpour eased to a mist, streetlights haloed in the dusk. Roman walked to his beat-up Subaru, the city alive with umbrellas blooming like black flowers along Queen and Avenue. He replayed Elias's voice in his head, that rumble settling into his bones. Therapy. It was supposed to fix him, not ignite something wilder. Back in his apartment, a third-floor walk-up in Capitol Hill with views of the evergreens scraping the sky. Roman microwaved leftovers, chili from his mom's recipe, beans and beef simmering with cumin that filled the space Jake's presence used to occupy. He scrolled through his phone, Grindr notifications blinking like accusations, but swiped them away. Instead, he pulled up his sketch pad, pencils whispering across paper as he drew Elias from memory. The curve of his mouth, the way his fingers steepled when listening. It was innocent, he told himself, just processing the session. But as he shaded the eyes, darker than he remembered, a heat bloomed low in his belly, unbidden and insistent. The next morning, Roman woke to gray light filtering through blinds, the city humming below with buses groaning up steep hills. He brewed coffee strong as regret, black and bitter, and checked his email. A new client for a brewery label. Hops and pine motifs that mirrored the Cascade foothills. Work was his lifeline. Pixels and vectors a canvas for control when emotions ran rampant. By noon, he was at his desk in a co-working space near California Anderson Park. Screens glowing, but his mind wandered back to the office, to Elias's quiet intensity. Their second session came midweek. The rain a steady companion now, turning Seattle into a watercolor blur. Roman arrived early, fidgeting in the waiting room with its stack of Out magazine back issues and herbal tea packets. When Elias appeared, gesturing him in, Roman caught a whiff of his cologne, cedar and citrus, grounding yet dizzying. They dove deeper this time, Roman unpacking the layers of abandonment. Not just Jake, but echoes from college hookups that fizzled into ghosting. The sting of a high school crush who chose conversion therapy over truth. Elias shared fragments of his own framework. Boundaries are what keep us safe, but they're also what we learn to bend. His voice dropping on that last word. Eyes locking with Roman's in a way that felt less clinical, more confessional. By the end, Roman felt lighter, the knot in his chest loosening like fog burning off the sound. Homework, Elias said with a half-smile, handing him a journal. Write one thing you're proud of each day. Start small. Roman nodded, pocketing it, their fingers brushing again. Accidental, electric. That night, in the journal's crisp pages, he wrote, I showed up today. That's something. Weeks blurred into a rhythm. Sessions twice weekly. The office a cocoon against the autumn chill creeping in. Roman's designs sharpened. Colors bolder. Landing him a gig with a local queer theater troupe for their winter production. He confided in Elias about the thrill, the fear of visibility, and Elias leaned forward, elbows on knees, saying, Art is therapy's mirror. Roman. It shows us whole when we feel shattered. Their conversations wove personal threads, Elias mentioning a fondness for jazz clubs in the Central District, Roman countering with indie rock shows at Numos. Laughter slipped in, tentative at first, then freer, warming the room like sunlight piercing clouds. One evening, after a particularly raw session where Roman admitted the nightmares, Jake's face morphing into stranger sneers, Elias paused at the door. You're stronger than you know, he murmured. Hand on Roman's shoulder, thumb grazing the collarbone in a touch that lingered, ignited. Roman drove home through veils of mist, heart racing, the line between patient and man blurring like city lights in rain-smeared glass. He didn't know it yet, but Elias was unraveling too, his own shadows stirring in the quiet after Roman left. The journal became Roman's confessor, pages filling with scrawls under the harsh glow of his desk lamp. Proud of the way I laughed today at that barista's joke, even though it hurt inside. Seattle's November draped the city in perpetual twilight, leaves carpeting sidewalks in gold and crimson, crunching under boots as Roman navigated his days. He threw himself into work, the theater gig demanding mood boards of velvet curtains and spotlight-drenched stages, metaphors for the spotlights he dodged in his own life. Friends dragged him to trivia nights at the Unicorn, pints of IPA sweating on wooden tables, questions about pop culture pulling reluctant smiles from him. You're glowing, man, his best friend Luca said over loaded nachos. Luca with his tattooed arms and perpetual optimism. a barista at Victrola who moonlighted as a drag king. Roman shrugged it off, but inside, he wondered if the glow was Elias's doing. Sessions deepened, Elias guiding him through cognitive maps of grief. Jake's abandonment not a verdict on Roman's lovability, but a symptom of Jake's own unhealed wounds. Hearts aren't contracts, Elias said one drizzly afternoon, the window streaked with rivulets like tears. Roman nodded, tracing patterns on his knee, the proximity of their chairs feeling intimate, conspiratorial. Elias shared more now. His undergrad days at the University of Washington, studying psych amid husky football cheers and cherry blossom blooms, a fellowship in Boston that left him homesick for the Pacific Northwest's moody embrace. Seattle chooses you, Elias reflected, gaze distant. Or maybe you choose its storms to match your own. Roman found himself anticipating the hour. The walk-up Queen Anne's incline a ritual. Past the boutique windows of Chihuly Garden and glass replicas, the air crisp with impending frost. In the office, vulnerabilities spilled. Roman's fear of aging out of youth's fleeting freedoms, the pressure of queer icons who seemed unbreakable. Elias countered with stories of clients who rebuilt, his voice a steady anchor. One day, as snow flurried unexpectedly outside, Roman arrived with sketches, not his homework, but impulsive drawings of the Olympic range, inspired by Elias's prints. For the wall, he said shyly, handing over the rolled paper. Elias unrolled it slowly, eyes tracing the lines, then met Roman's with a softness that stole breath. This is beautiful. Thank you. The moment hung, charged, until the buzzer for the next appointment shattered it. That night, Roman dreamed of Elias, hands mapping his skin like uncharted coasts, whispers blending with jazz saxophone from some imagined club. He woke flushed, sheets tangled, guilt warring with desire. It was transference. He rationalized over morning yoga in his living room, poses flowing to the rhythm of Nina Simone on vinyl. But the pull grew, insidious as ivy on brick. At their next meeting, Elias noticed the flush. Something shifted? He probed gently. Roman hesitated, then confessed the dreams, words halting. Elias's expression flickered, professional mask cracking before he recovered. It's normal in therapy, especially with trust building. We explore it together. But his voice held a huskiness. And when their eyes locked, Roman saw his own hunger mirrored back. The holidays loomed, Seattle transforming into a twinkling wonderland. Lights strung across the monorail, holiday markets at the Armory with mulled wine and handmade ornaments. Roman's mom invited him to Tacoma for Thanksgiving, her table groaning with turkey and tamales, aunts chattering in Spanglish about telenovelas. He went, grateful for the warmth, but his thoughts strayed to Elias, who mentioned a quiet holiday with books and a solitary hike in Discovery Park. Solitude recharges, Elias said in session, but his eyes betrayed a loneliness Roman recognized too well. Emboldened, Roman suggested casually, he hoped, a post-session coffee at Le Panier, the French bakery down the hill with croissants like buttery clouds. Elias paused, then agreed. As friends, outside this space, the coffee date blurred the lines irrevocably. Seated at a corner table amid the scent of fresh baguettes and espresso, rain tapping the awning overhead, They talked without the notebook's barrier. Elias revealed a love for noir films, Bogart's gravelly cynicism over Jean Tierney's grace. Roman countered with his obsession for Wong Kar-wai's aching romances, the way in the mood for love captured unspoken longing. Laughter flowed easier, touches accidental, a knee brush under the table, fingers grazing over a shared scone. Elias's stories turned personal. A college love lost to distance, the ache of returning to Seattle alone. Therapists heal others, but sometimes we forget ourselves, he admitted, stirring his latte, steam curling like secrets. Roman walked home buoyant, the city a symphony of honking ferries and distant jazz from a club. He texted Luca, "Met someone." Kinda. Luca's reply was a string of eggplant emojis and details. Bitch. But Roman held back, the complication a thorn. Sessions resumed with an undercurrent, discussions laced with subtext. Boundaries, Elias reminded during a talk on healthy attachments, but his proximity, leaning in to emphasize a point, belied the words. Roman pushed, testing. What if the boundary feels like a cage? Elias's breath caught, eyes darkening. Then we redefine it. Winter deepened, snow blanketing the hills in rare silence. Roman's theater project wrapped with a premiere at Intiman Theater, his posters adorning lampposts like proud banners. He invited Elias, a professional curiosity, he joked in session. Elias attended, slipping into a back row seat. His presence a warm gravity Roman felt across the auditorium. Afterward, over drinks at the theater bar, champagne fizzing in flutes, Elias praised the work. You captured the ache so vividly, it's alive. Their shoulders touched as they stood at the bar. The crowd a blur, and when Roman turned, Elias was closer, breath mingling. The kiss happened in the alley behind the theater. Impulsive, rain-slicked bricks pressing Roman's back as Elias's lips claimed his, soft at first, then urgent, hands framing his face with a tenderness that broke something open. They pulled apart gasping, foreheads touching. This is dangerous, Elias whispered, voice ragged. Roman nodded, heart thundering. But real. They parted with promises to talk. But the next session crackled with aftermath. Elias, composed behind his desk, outlined ethics, dual relationships forbidden, the power imbalance a minefield. Yet his eyes pleaded, conflicted. Roman, emboldened by the taste of him, argued, we're both men adrift. What if we're each other's shore? Elias relented, fractionally, suggesting they pause sessions, explore as equals. It was a compromise, fragile as first frost. Their dates unfolded in stolen moments. Walks along the locks at Ballard, salmon leaping upstream as they shared falafel from a food truck. Evenings at Elias's Belltown loft, minimalist with mid-century furniture and views of the Sound, where they cooked pasta Alfredo, wine loosening tongues. Elias opened up in layers. His ex-husband, Theo, a chef who burned out on the line, and their marriage, leaving 2 years prior with the ferry schedule as goodbye. I fixed everyone else, Elias confessed one night, curled on the couch with Roman's head in his lap, fingers carding through dark waves. Forgot I was breaking. Roman shared his own scars, the hookup in college that turned violent, fists and slurs in a dorm bathroom, the therapy he skipped back then. Vulnerability bonded them, nights blending into slow explorations, kisses tracing collarbones, bodies moving with a reverence born of longing. Spring hinted at arrival, cherry blossoms budding along University Avenue, but so did cracks. Elias grew distant after a session with a difficult client, canceling a planned hike in the Issaquah Alps. Roman, sensing withdrawal, pressed in a quiet diner over Eggs Benedict. "Talk to me," he urged. Elias's jaw tightened, fork pausing. "Old habits die hard. I don't want to drag you into my mess." Roman reached across, hand covering his. "We're in it together," but doubt seeded, a quiet erosion. One May evening, after a show at the Triple Door, Elias's hand warm on the small of Roman's back, they returned to the loft, jazz pulsing low. Clothes shed like inhibitions. They made love for the first time, bodies sinking in a rhythm of gasps and whispers, Elias's name a mantra on Roman's lips. Afterward, tangled in sheets, Elias traced Roman's tattoos, a sleeve of waves and stars from his 20s, and murmured, "You make me believe in second chances." Roman slept soundly, the city's hum a lullaby. But morning brought the first fracture, Elias's phone buzzing incessantly, a name Roman didn't recognize, Marco, flashing on the screen. Elias silenced it, face paling. "Work," he lied, but Roman saw the tremor. Trust, fragile, began to fray. Summer unfurled in Seattle like a reluctant secret, sun breaking through clouds to gild the markets and marinas. But the warmth couldn't thaw the chill settling between Roman and Elias. Marco's calls persisted, innocuous at first, Elias claiming an old colleague from Boston, networking for a conference, but Roman's intuition prickled, a designer's eye for off-kilter compositions. He buried it in busier days. The freelance boom with Pride season, rainbow palettes exploding across his screen for festival posters, his mom beaming at a family barbecue in Tacoma, ribs smoking on the grill as she pulled him aside. "This Elias, does he make your heart sing?" "Mijo?" Roman nodded, forcing brightness, but the note lingered. Their intimacy deepened in stolen pockets. Picnics at Green Lake, paddleboats cutting wakes as they fed ducks breadcrumbs, laughter echoing off the water, midnight drives to Alki Beach, bonfire sparks dancing as they walked barefoot in the surf, toes curling in cool sand, Elias's arm around Roman's waist like an anchor. "You're my harbor," Elias whispered one night, lips brushing Roman's temple, the sound lapping secrets at their feet. Roman believed him, let the words rebuild what Jake had torn down. Sessions had paused officially, but therapy bled into talks, Elias helping Roman journal through imposter syndrome at work, Roman coaxing Elias to confront the divorce papers still unsigned in a drawer. Yet shadows lengthened. Elias worked longer hours at the collective, coming home to the loft exhausted, bourbon glass in hand more often, the amber liquid glinting like warning lights. Roman noticed the late nights scrolling his phone, thumb pausing on messages he angled away. One humid July evening, after a concert at the Paramount, sweaty crowds pulsing to synthpop, they argued for the first time. Roman, tipsy on gin and adrenaline, confronted, "Who's Marco?" Elias froze in the kitchen, knife midway through chopping basil for capris. "I told you, old friend," but his eyes darted. the lie thin as summer fog. Roman pressed, voice rising over the sizzle of tomatoes in the pan. Friends don't call at 2 a.m. Elias. I hear you murmuring in your sleep. His name. Elias set the knife down, hands gripping the counter, knuckles white. It's nothing. Drop it. The dismissal stung, sharper than Jake's note. Roman stormed out, walking the neon-veined streets of Belltown, bars spilling laughter and bass that mocked his turmoil. He ended up at a dive near Pike Place, nursing a whiskey sour, texting Luca. Fucking it up already. Luca arrived 20 minutes later, leather jacket slung over his shoulder, sliding onto the stool. Spill. Is he worth the drama? Roman hesitated, then poured it out, the ethics, the passion, the creeping doubt. Luca listened, then squeezed his arm. Trust your gut, Rome. But don't run before you know. Reconciliation came at dawn. Elias at Roman's door with coffee and croissants, eyes red-rimmed. Marco's an ex before Theo. We talk sometimes, that's all. No secrets. They made up on the couch. Apologies melting into touches. Bodies reaffirming promises. Roman wanted to believe. Let the summer sun blind him. August brought festivals. Bumbershoot stages thumping with queer artists. Roman and Elias weaving through crowds. Hands linked defiantly. At a quiet moment by the Ferris wheel, Elias knelt, not proposing, but tying Roman's loosened shoelace. A small act that swelled Roman's chest. I love you, Elias said later. Over gelato at a waterfront stand. The words casual yet seismic. Roman echoed them, tasting strawberry and forever. Fall crept back. Leaves turning underfoot as Roman's career crested. A major contract with a Seattle tech startup. App icons sleek and intuitive. His name in the credits. He celebrated with Elias at Canlis, the restaurant's perch overlooking the city. Candlelight flickering on linen as they savored salmon and stories. Elias seemed steadier, Marco's shadow fading. But Roman caught glimpses, Elias staring at his phone during a hike in Rattlesnake Ledge. Expression haunted. Just emails, he'd say, pocketing it. Roman let it slide, focusing on their rhythm. Movie nights with popcorn and Wong Kar-wai marathons. Roman sketching Elias asleep, lines soft with adoration. The betrayal brewed slowly, like storm clouds over the Cascades. One crisp October Saturday, Roman borrowed Elias's laptop for a file transfer, design software crashing on his own machine. The desktop bloomed with folders, client notes, jazz playlists, a hidden one labeled unsent. Curiosity, that designer's vice. One. He clicked, heart sinking as emails unfurled. To Marco, raw confessions spanning months. I see myself in him, broken, hungry for fixing. But with you, it's real. God, I miss your clarity. Dates overlapped their early days. Elias's words painting Roman as a mirror to old wounds. Therapy's echo twisted into romance. Deeper, admissions of doubt. Prescribing him hope while I chase ghosts. What am I doing? Roman slammed the laptop shut, bile rising. Betrayal wasn't the affair. There was none, he sensed, but the manipulation. Elias weaving Roman into his narrative without consent. Patient become pawn. He fled the loft, keys jangling, driving aimlessly through winding roads to Discovery Park, where trails twisted like veins. He sat on a driftwood log by the tide flats, waves crashing recriminations, tears hot on chilled cheeks. Hours later, phone dead, he walked back to civilization, hitching a ferry to Bainbridge for space, the crossing a blur of whitecaps and what-ifs. Elias's texts piled up when he charged at a cafe. "Where are you? Please." Roman ignored, crashing at Luca's couch in Fremont, the troll sculpture under the bridge a grotesque sentinel. Luca brewed tea, listened as Roman raged, the love, the lies, the way Elias's touch now felt like strings. "He used me to heal himself," Roman choked. Luca hugged him fierce. Or maybe he saw his own reflection. "Doesn't make it right." Days blurred. Roman threw himself into work. Designs frantic, colors clashing like his mood. He resumed solo therapy at the collective Irony Bitter with a new counselor, Priya, her office scented with jasmine, voice a gentle probe. "Anger is grief's armor," she said. Roman peeled it back, session by session. Elias respected the space at first. Voicemails pleading understanding. "I was lost. Roman. You were my light. I never meant to dim yours." But desperation mounted. He showed at Roman's apartment one rainy night, soaked through, eyes wild. "Let me explain." Roman, towel in hand from a shower, let him in against better judgment, the air thick with unsaid. Over cheap Merlot on the fire escape, Elias confessed. Marco, the on-again ex from grad school, a sculptor whose volatility mirrored Elias's unhealed abandonment issues. The emails were catharsis, unsent drafts to process, not deceit. But reading them, "It felt like I was your experiment," Roman whispered, voice cracking. Elias reached, but Roman pulled back. Trust is the wound now. They parted fractured, Elias lingering at the door, rain dripping from his coat. "I love you enough to let you go if that's healing." Roman closed the door, sliding down it, sobs racking until dawn. The crisis peaked that week. A breakdown at work, presentation derailed by tears, boss sympathetic but firm. "Take time, Roman," he did, holing up in Tacoma with his mom, her arms a bomb as she stirred pozole, steam carrying memories. "Love hurts because it's brave. Corazon," she said, rocking him like childhood. Dad clapped his shoulder over garage tinkering. "Men mess up. Question is, can he fix it?" Back in Seattle, Roman wandered markets, sketching strangers' faces, anonymous eyes holding stories he no longer feared. Priya's sessions unearthed roots, his own pattern of saviors, Jake before Elias, always giving until empty. "You're enough alone," she affirmed. Strength budded, tentative as crocuses. Elias, meanwhile, spiraled in silence, bouts of isolation, bourbon bottles emptying faster, clients noticing his distraction. A colleague pulled him aside. "Get help, or lose this," he did, seeking his own therapist, the irony a mirror held to his facade. Winter solstice approached, shortest day mirroring Roman's nadir. A card arrived, Elias's handwriting, simple, "I'm healing. For me, and for what we had." Roman burned it in the sink, ashes swirling down the drain like closure. But the ache lingered, a hollow demanding fill. The new year dawned brittle. Seattle's fireworks muffled by low clouds. Roman watching from his balcony with a thermos of spiked cocoa. Resolutions whispering like wind through pines. Rebuild. Alone. Work steadied, the tech gig extended. Remote days spent in cafes like Analog, where the hum of conversation drowned introspection. He dated casually. Coffee meetups via apps that fizzled into polite goodbyes. A reminder that connection required risk he wasn't ready for. Luca dragged him to drag brunches at Rue's Kitchen. Glitter and mimosas a riotous distraction. Queen's lip-syncing to Ariana that coaxed reluctant cheers from him. See? Life's a show. Steal the spotlight. One performer. A statuesque redhead named Vixen. Winked post-show. Roman sketched her later. Fierce lines capturing the glamour's grit. Therapy with Priya evolved into excavation. Unpacking the savior complex. Tracing it to his mom's fierce protection after his dad's factory layoff. How Roman learned love as provision. You gave Elias your map without drawing your own, Priya noted. Her sari draping elegantly as she steepled fingers. Roman nodded. Journaling boundaries now, pages dictating no without apology. Spring bloomed tentative. Tulip fields in Mount Vernon a day trip with Luca. Colors exploding against gray skies. Roman's camera capturing petals unfurling like hope. Elias haunted peripherally. Mutual friends at events averting eyes. Whispers of his leave from the collective for personal reasons. Roman resisted asking, but curiosity gnawed. One April afternoon, browsing Kerouac's used books in Pioneer Square, he spotted Elias across the street, thinner, beard unkempt, entering a AA meeting hall, door swinging shut like judgment. Heart twisting, Roman didn't follow, but the image lingered, humanizing the hurt. That night, he dreamed of them at the locks, fish struggling upstream, Elias's hand slipping from his. Summer returned sweltering, rare heat waves turning the city into a steam bath. Roman escaping to the San Juans for a weekend, kayaking around Orcas Island's coves, seals barking approval. Solitude suited him, waves lapping a mantra, you are whole. Back home, a gallery reached out, his theater posters caught an curator's eye, inviting a solo show at the Fry Art Museum's emerging wing. Elation surged. He poured into canvases, digital prints translated to oil, themes of fractured light and mended shores. The opening night hummed electric, black tie crowd sipping Pinot in sunlit galleries, Roman in a tailored vest and slacks, olive skin glowing under spots. Luca preened beside him, complimenting strangers. His mom and dad mingled, her in a flowing dress, him tugging at his tie, proud murmurs floating. Then Elias appeared, uninvited yet inevitable, at the periphery, crisp shirt, hair tamed, eyes scanning until locking on Roman. Time stuttered. Roman excused himself from a collector, approaching with steel in his spine. You came, Elias swallowed, hands in pockets. Couldn't miss this. It's stunning. Your pain turned poetry. They talked haltingly, art bridging the chasm. Elias praising a piece called Tidal Pull, waves crashing around two silhouettes, one reaching, one receding. It's us, Elias breathed. Roman's throat tightened. It was. Now it's me. Elias nodded, hurt flickering, but respect in his posture. I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry, truly. My own chaos bled into yours. He revealed fragments. The AA, therapy twice weekly, confronting the bourbon's grip. Marco blocked for good. Healing's lonely, but necessary. Roman absorbed it. The crowd's buzz a distant hum. I forgive you, he said finally, the words freeing. But we're different paths now. Elias's eyes glistened. He squeezed Roman's forearm, brief and brotherly. Be brilliant. He slipped away, leaving Roman adrift in acclaim. Toasts to his future ringing hollow at first, then true. The show sold out. Clippings in The Stranger hailing his raw emotional cartography. Momentum built. Commissions from queer nonprofits. A residency offer in Portland he mulled. Fall painted the city amber. Roman hiking alone in Discovery Park. Leaves crunching underfoot. Journal entries shifting to gratitude for the fracture that forged strength. Yet loneliness nipped. Nights in bed tracing empty space. Memories of Elias's weight a phantom ache. Thanksgiving brought family to his apartment. Mom commandeering the kitchen for mole poblano. Dad and Luca debating Seahawks plays over pie. Laughter filled the rooms, but as plates cleared, his mom pulled him to the balcony. City lights sprawling below. You've grown. Me Joe, stronger roots. Roman hugged her, tears pricking. Thanks to breaking. Winter whispered crises anew. A freelance dry spell. Designs rejected for being too introspective, echoing old doubts. Roman spiraled. Priya's couch a confessional for imposter resurgence. Success amplifies shadows, she counseled. He pushed through, volunteering at a youth center in the Central District, mentoring queer teens on digital art, their wide eyes mirroring his younger self, hungry for visibility. One kid, Jamal, shy with locks and sketches of superheroes in hijabs, reminded him of purpose beyond pain. Elias re-entered orbit subtly, an email congratulating the show, professional distance maintained. Roman replied politely, attachment a new piece, abstract waves resolving into unity. No response came, but the sending healed something. Spring 2026 teased renewal. Cherry blossoms carpeting sidewalks like confetti. Roman dated again. A barista named Theo, no relation, with curly hair and easy quips. Coffees evolving to dinners at Boat Bar. Sunset views companionable. It was light, unpressured, a step. But fate, that Seattle drizzle, persisted. One stormy May evening, Roman's phone rang, Elias's number. Voice strained, I need a friend. Can you come? Hesitation warred with compassion. He went, driving through sheets of rain to the loft, finding Elias on the floor, bottle tipped, sobs racking. Relapse, Elias gasped as Roman knelt, arms enveloping without thought. Lost a client today, suicide. And it all crashed back. Roman held him through the night. No more. Just presence, water fetched, blankets draped, dawn breaking with tentative peace. Morning brought clarity. This doesn't change us, Roman said firmly, helping Elias to the couch. But get back to your program. For you, Elias nodded, gratitude raw. Thank you for seeing me, not the mask. Roman left with a hug, boundaries intact, the drive home through clearing skies a metaphor. Summer hummed forward, Roman's life a tapestry weaving old threads anew. The youth center gig expanded, Jamal's first exhibit under his wing a triumph. Theo faded gently, timing off, but openness lingered. Elias stabilized, sightings at jazz nights where they'd nod across rooms, silent allies. Autumn leaves swirled as Roman reflected in Priya's office. Healing isn't erasure, it's integration. She smiled. You've authored your story now, yet the arc bent toward convergence, a high tide pulling them inexorably. October's chill seeped into bones. Seattle streets slick with fallen leaves. Roman bundling into scarves for evening runs along the Burke-Gilman Trail, breath fogging in the crisp air. His life stabilized into a gentle cadence. Mornings at the co-working space overlooking Lake Union. Afternoons split between client calls and youth center sessions, where Jamal's confidence bloomed like asters in the community garden they tended. Roman's own art evolved, series on resilience, exhibited at a pop-up in Georgetown, industrial lofts echoing with murmurs of approval. Luca threw a launch party there, fairy lights strung amid exposed beams, craft cocktails flowing as friends toasted to Roman. Unbroken lines. Elias hovered at the edges, a ghost turned guardian. Post-relapse. He recommitted to recovery, AA meetings thrice weekly, sponsor a burly ex-cop named Harlan who texted dad joke check-ins. Their paths crossed organically. A volunteer fair at Seattle Center, both tabling for mental health orgs, banter over clipboards easing into coffee afterward. You're thriving, Elias noted, stirring sugar into his Americano at the Space Needle's base. Tourists milling like colorful schools of fish. Roman shrugged, warmth spreading. Learning to float solo. No sparks reignited, just mutual regard. A bridge mended but not crossed. Winter holidays approached with their velvet ache. Roman opting for a hybrid, Thanksgiving in Tacoma, then a solo Yuletide hike in the Olympics, snowshoeing to frozen lakes where silence amplified soul. Back in the city, New Year's Eve found him at a queer dance party in soda warehouses, bass thumping through veins, bodies a sea of sequins and sweat. He danced with abandon, strangers' hands on hips fleeting, until spotting Elias across the floor, sober, smiling with a group, catching Roman's eye with a nod that felt like permission. They didn't merge, but the sight steadied him, midnight cheers erupting as confetti rained. Spring 2027 burst verdant. Roman's residency in Portland a siren call. 3 months curating a queer digital archive at PNCA. Bridges and brews a fresh palette. He accepted, packing his apartment into storage. Mom crying joyful tears over airport tamales. Portland welcomed with rose gardens and food carts. Roman's loft in the Pearl District overlooking the Willamette. Sketches of Hawthorne bridges filling sketchbooks. Dates dotted the calendar. A poet named Riley with freckles and fierce verses. Slams at Powell's where words wove spells. But Seattle tugged. Calls home to Luca laced with Miss the Rain. Elias's updates came sporadic. Texts about a new client breakthrough, or a jazz album recommendation. Platonic threads. Roman shared Portland snippets. Voodoo donut absurdities. Forest bathing in Forest Park. Distance clarified affection, no longer tangled in need. Summer there sizzled, festivals like waterfront blues pulling him into crowds, harmonica wails echoing his inner rhythm. Return to Seattle in September felt like homecoming, the city's embrace damp and familiar. His career peaked, a book deal for visual echoes, art as emotional cartography, pages blending designs with essays on queer healing. Launch at Elliott Bay Book Company drew throngs, Roman signing amid stacks, Elias in line with a worn copy of Carver Shorts. Inspiring, Elias said post-signing, eyes crinkling. You've mapped what I couldn't. They walked the store's creaky floors, discussing influences, Didion's precision, Baldwin's fire, ending with hugs at the door, lingering scent of books and cedar. Autumn deepened, Roman volunteering more at the center, mentoring a new cohort, teens navigating coming-outs in conservative suburbs, their stories a mosaic of courage. Jamal, now 16, curated his own show, Roman's Pride Paternal. Personal life bloomed quietly, a spark with a teacher named Devin, hazel eyes and hiking boots, weekends in the Snoqualmie Pass, campfires crackling confessions. You're steady, Devin said one night, head on Roman's chest. Like you've weathered storms. Roman smiled into the stars. Truth in the words. But equilibrium quivered. Elias called one blustery November eve. Voice-edged, Harlan's sick cancer. Slip tonight. Need a meeting buddy. Roman went. The church basement stark with folding chairs and coffee urns. Stories circling like smoke. Elias shared raw relapse fears. Client losses, Roman's hand on his knee a silent vow. Afterward, diner pie at 2 a.m. Forks clinking as vulnerability spilled. You're my North Star, Elias admitted, pie crust crumbling. Roman squeezed his hand. And you're learning to navigate. Winter wrapped them in introspection. Roman's book tour hitting Chicago's windy bistros and LA's sun-drenched cafes. But Seattle called back. Holiday lights twinkled as he hosted a solstice gathering. Mom, Dad, Luca, even Priya, mulled wine and stories weaving warmth. Elias arrived late. Gift of vintage sketchpad. For your next chapter. Eyes met over candles. A current humming, not desire, but deep kinship. Spring 2028 tease change. Devin's job offer in Boston. A crossroads. Roman waited in Priya's office. Now a trusted harbor. What anchors you here? She asked. Roots, he replied, family. Art. The center. An unspoken, Elias's quiet presence. Devin understood. Their parting amicable. A letter of grateful for the trail we shared. Summer solitude suited. Roman diving into a new series. Portraits of healers. First Elias, not the therapist, but the man. Laugh lines etched. Eyes holding tempests tamed. He showed it at a small gallery in Fremont. Elias attending incognito. Throat bobbing at the reveal. You saw me, he whispered post-talk. Roman nodded. We see each other. Crisis crested subtly. Elias's practice faltered. Burnout's toll. A sabbatical announced. Roman found him at the loft. Boxes half-packed for a Montana retreat, cabins and counseling collectives in Big Sky Country. Need reset, Elias explained over tea. Steam curling. Roman ached, the void looming. "Visit," Elias asked. Roman promised, hugging fierce. Fall winds howled as Elias left, Roman waving from the airport curb, plane vanishing into clouds. Emptiness echoed, but growth followed. Center director role offered, Roman accepting, teens' futures in his hands. Book sales soared, essays in The Atlantic on queer mental health, voice amplifying. Winter solstice, alone with Coco, Roman journaled, healing shared is healing doubled. A card arrived, Montana postmark, Elias's script, clear skies here. Yours. Spring thawed revelations. Elias returned transformed, beard trimmed, eyes brighter, announcing a co-therapy model partners in vulnerability workshops. They collaborated tentatively. First event at the Collective. Roman guest speaking on art's role. Stage lights warm. Their duet seamless. Applause thundering. Summer sealed shifts. A hike in the enchantments. Alpine lakes mirroring skies. Roman and Elias cresting a pass. Breath sinking. "Thank you," Elias said at the summit. Wind whipping. "For pulling me back," Roman grinned. We pulled each other, yet depth demanded trial. Autumn's gales brewing. October's palette bled crimson and gold across the Cascades. Roman and Elias's friendship solidifying like maple sap, slow, enduring. Their workshops gained traction. Queer community centers from Portland to Vancouver booking slots. Sessions blending Elias's psych insights with Roman's visual metaphors. Participants leaving with sketched, healing maps. Roman thrived in the director role. Budget expansions funding after-school programs. Jamal apprenticing as junior mentor. His locks tied back as he guided wide-eyed kids through Photoshop layers. Luca teased endlessly. From heartbreak to heartmender, your glow-ups blinding. Personal currents eddied. Roman dipped into dating. An architect named Silas with wire-rimmed glasses and wanderlust. Weekends blueprinting tiny homes in the Olympics. Sawdust-scented kisses under evergreens. Silas grounded him. Conversations on sustainable builds mirroring Roman's emotional scaffolding. "You're building something real," Silas murmured one dusk. Hammer pausing. Roman leaned in, tasting possibility. Elias, post-Montana, radiated renewal practice booming. Harlan's chemo rallying with his support. Chips stacking like milestones. Their bond deepened platonically. Brunches at Portage Bay Cafe. Pancakes towering as they dissected Baldwin essays. Vinyl nights at Roman's. Coltrane's saxophone weaving through discussions of forgiveness's freight. "You taught me grace," Elias confessed one rainy evening. Needle lifting. Roman waved it off. Mirrors. Remember. Winter 2028 wrapped in festivities. Roman hosting an expanded solstice, now including Silas, Priya's partner, even a video call from Portland Riley. Laughter ricocheted off walls. Mom leading a toast in Spanglish. To loves that lift, Elias arrived with pie. Eyes lingering on Silas with quiet approval. No jealousy, just joy. Spring 2029 bloomed ambitious. Roman's second book, Cartographies of Care, co-authored with Elias, interlaced narratives of therapy and art. Vulnerabilities duet. Publisher meetings in New York. Skyline glittering as they pitched over martinis at the Nomad. Synergy electric yet chaste. This feels right, Elias said, clinking glasses. Roman agreed, the city's pulse sinking theirs. Summer sweltered, workshops touring, a sold-out retreat in the San Juans, cabins on Lopez Island where participants hiked tide pools, journaling epiphanies by bonfires. Roman and Elias facilitated side by side, evenings unwinding with swims, saltwater rinsing days. One twilight, towels draped on driftwood, Elias turned contemplative. I almost lost you last time. Roman draped an arm around his shoulders. Brotherly. We evolve. That's the map. Fall harvest brought harvest of tensions. Silas proposed a sabbatical in Scandinavia. Eco-village is calling. Roman demurred. Roots too deep. Their talks turning tentative. Timing, he explained over pho in the ID. Steam veiling regret. Silas nodded. Hug lingering. You deserve steady seas. Parting stung, but freer skies followed. November gales howled omens. Elias's mom, a widow in Spokane, fell ill, dementia creeping, memories fraying like old film. He confided during a trail run in Discovery Park. Breaths ragged. She's forgetting Dad, us. Roman listened, then drove him east. The wheat fields golden under overcast. In the sterile nursing home, Elias held her hand, stories coaxing flickers of recognition. Roman waited in the hall, sketching wilted poinsettias, heart aching for the man unraveling. That night, motel room adjacent, Elias knocked, eyes hollow. Stay. Not romantic, but human. Roman did. Back-to-back on twin beds. Silence a shared vigil. Return to Seattle raw. Elias withdrawing into work. Roman anchoring with check-ins. Take-out Thai. Walks at Golden Gardens. Pier pilings creaking like confessions. You're carrying too much, Roman urged. Elias cracked. Therapists aren't supposed to need saving. Roman cupped his face. Friends are. Winter deepened the delve. Holidays shadowed. Roman's family gathering bittersweet. Mom's empanadas a comfort as Elias opted for Spokane. New Year's alone. Roman danced in his kitchen to Motown. Resolutions etched. Deepen. Don't dilute. The book launched to acclaim. Signings packed. Elias's chapters praised for unflinching intimacy. Spring 2029 teased turmoil. A workshop in LA. High profile but high pressure. Funder expectations clashing with ethos. Rehearsals tense. Elias snapping at a co-facilitator. Old bourbon ghosts whispering. Post-event. Hotel bar dim. Roman found him nursing soda. Knuckles bruised from a phantom punch. Slipped one drink. Harlan's gone now. Cancer one. Grief cascaded. Elias sobbing into Roman's shoulder. The dam breaking. Roman held. Whispering. Breathe. We've mapped this. Back north. Elias recommitted fiercer, new sponsor, a poet named Mira with tattooed verses. Roman supported from afar, focusing on the center's expansion. A mural project with teens, walls blooming queer icons under his guidance. Pride Month exploded, parades thumping down 4th Avenue, Roman marching with his cohort, rainbow flags whipping. Summer simmered conflicts. An ex-client sued Elias for boundary breach, echoes of their past, though unrelated, Dredging guilt. Media sniffed. Whispers in the PI questioning ethics. Elias spiraled. Practice shuttered temporarily. Isolation's maw opening. Roman rallied. Legal consults over lunches at Matt's in the market. Clamming at Hood Canal for distraction. Buckets brimming as they dug. Mud-caked laughs defying despair. This too passes, Roman echoed Priya's mantra. Hands linking in the shallows. Fall's equinox balanced the scales. Lawsuit dismissed as baseless. But scars lingered, Elias questioning his calling. Am I poison? He asked during a ferry ride to Bremerton. Olympics hazy. Roman turned. Fierce. You're human. That's your strength. They hiked post-crossing. Autumn ferns rustling. Summit views clarifying. Rebuild different. Winter's hush healed incrementally. Co-workshops resuming scaled back. Roman's art anchoring exhibits on fragile fortitudes. Elias emerged tempered. Gratitude profound. You stayed, he said one snow-dusted eve. Mittens clasping. Roman smiled. Always. Yet the journey crested toward catharsis. Bonds tested to temper. November's frost etched windows like lace. Seattle's pulse slowing to hearth fires and early dusks. Roman and Elias's alliance forged in quiet rituals. Saturday markets at Ballard Locks. Salmon runs mirroring their persistence. Fresh cider warming palms as they browsed. Roman's mural project culminated in a ribbon cutting at the center. Walls alive with vibrant murals. Teens' hands immortalized in pigment. Jamal unveiling a piece of interlocking hands across spectra. Tears in his eyes. Your vision. Roman. Pride swelled. Mom snapping photos. Dad gruffly approving. Elias rebuilt deliberately. A podcast launch. Echoes of empathy. Episodes blending case studies with personal reckonings. Guests like Mira sharing sobriety sonnets. Roman guested once. Voice steady on mics at KUOW Studios. Discussing art's therapeutic arc. Listeners flooded in. Community stitching stronger. Personal horizons widened. Roman met Kai at a gallery opening in Pioneer Square. A curator with sharp bob and sharper wit. Installations of recycled plastics evoking ocean ghosts. Their first date. Dim sum in ID. Steamers unveiling dumplings like surprises. Conversations on sustainability spilling into walks along the viaduct remnants. Kai challenged him. Vulnerability's a verb. Pulling Roman into gallery crawls. Bodies close in crowded spaces. Kisses tasting of green tea and potential. Elias noticed. Over beers at Elysian Fields post-podcast. He suits you, grounded. Like you now. No envy. Just sincerity. Their friendship's purity a rare gem. Winter solstice circled. Roman inviting Kai to the gathering. Elias toasting them amid wassail bowls. Laughter layered. But Elias slipped early. Spokane calling. Mom's decline accelerating. Nights of lucidity fleeting. January 2030 bit cold. Roman waking to Elias's text. She's gone. Peaceful. Condolences flowed. Roman driving east again. Funeral in a Spokane chapel. Snow blanketing pines like shrouds. Elias spoke eulogy. Voice cracking on memories of her jazz records and apple pies. Roman in the pew. Hand on his back steadying. Reception at a cousin's. Potluck spreads of casseroles and cobblers. Stories weaving her tapestry. That night, Elias collapsed into Roman's arms on the porch. Stars indifferent overhead. She was my first patient. Taught me love's the cure. Roman held. Words inadequate. Presence enough. Return north cathartic. Elias scattering ashes at Palouse Falls. Cascades thundering benediction. Workshops paused. But he journaled furiously. Grief's ink black then bleeding color. Roman supported with space. Trail runs where words weren't needed. Just footfalls sinking. Art supplies gifted. Elias's sketches emerging. Abstract grief waves resolving to serenity. Spring thawed layers. Roman and Kai deepening. Weekends at his cabin in Index. River roars lulling as they canoed. Picnics of prosciutto and figs. Kai opened doors, introducing to avant-garde circles. A trip to MoMA where Warhols whispered queer codes. You're my muse, Kai teased. Camera clicking Roman amid sculptures. Love budded. Gentle. Elias resurfaced renewed. Podcast episodes on loss drawing thousands. A book deal mirroring Romans. Their collaboration reignited. A joint retreat in the Methau Valley. Yurts circled under star-pricked skies. Participants fire-lit circles sharing scars. One dawn yoga. Elias caught Roman's eye mid-pose. Gratitude silent. Summer scorched. Crises cresting. Kai's gallery hit scandal. Stolen indigenous artifacts in a show. Backlash swift. Roman stood by. But strain showed arguments over ethics. Kai's defensiveness clashing Roman's clarity. Fight for right, Roman urged over waterfront salads. Kai relented. Exhibit dismantled. But trust phrase. Elias counseled neutral. Coffee at Zeitgeist. Croissants flaking as he mediated. Boundaries again, yours and his. Roman listened. Perspective gold. Fall equinox balanced. Kai and Roman parting with grace. A final hike in Cougar Mountain. Leaves confettiing goodbye. You taught me depth, Kai said. Kiss lingering. Roman mourned briefly. Then forward. Singlehood a canvas blank and inviting. November winds whipped revelations. Elias proposed expanding the podcast to video. Roman directing visuals, montages of Seattle's moody beauty underscoring stories. Production in a Fremont studio. Lights hot. Their synergy seamless. Late edits stretched to dawn. Takeout boxes piling. Laughter punctuating cuts. Winter's grip tightened. A storm felling trees across the sound. Power outages cocooning the city. Roman and Elias hold at the loft. Candles flickering. Board games by flashlight. Scrabble tiles forming healing in a winning play. Vulnerability crested. Elias admitting, without you, I'd be adrift still. Roman clasped hands. Ditto. Your family. Spring 2031 bloomed bold. The video series launched to viral acclaim. TEDx invites following. Roman keynote in Vancouver. Slides of his journey, fractures to fortitude, met with standing ovations. Elias followed in Seattle. Story of relapse and redemption raw. Roman in front row. Tears proud. Summer toured them south. Austin's South by Southwest panel on queer mental health. Texas heat mirroring intensity. Q&A delving deep. Post-panel. Rooftop bar. Long neck sweating. Elias turned. We've built empires from ruins. Roman clinked bottles. Together, Yet climax loomed. Autumn's harvest reaping reckonings. Crisis detonated unexpectedly. An anonymous leak. Old emails from their early days surfacing online. Twisted by a disgruntled ex-client into therapist-patient affair scandal. Media frenzy erupted. Headlines in The Stranger and Beyond. Boundary breach in Seattle therapy scene? Practice shuttered. Workshops canceled. Roman's center scrutinized. Phones rang relentless. Luca Fielding. Breathe. Rome. Elias panicked. Bourbon bottle half empty when Roman arrived. Face ashen. It's out. Everything. Roman steadied. Deleting the draft relapse text. We face it. Truth our shield. They lawyered up. Statements drafted, relationship post-therapy. Ethical pauses documented. But damage rippled. Friends distanced. Family worried. Mom's calls laced fear. Roman's board demanded review. Teens' parents pulling back. He fought. Town halls transparent. Vulnerability his weapon. Our stories human, flawed, healed. Elias broadcasted live. Apology unfiltered. I aired young. Grew through grace. Judge the work. Not whispers. Backlash peaked. Then ebbed. Supporters rallying petitions. Op-eds from Priya. Myra's poetry slams defending. Through the maelstrom, they anchored each other. Nights plotting strategy over herbal tea. Walks in volunteer park dawn. Cherry trees bear witnesses. This breaks or binds us, Elias said one fog-shrouded morn. Roman gripped his arm. Binds. Winter's nadir tested. A deposition. Cold room words weaponized. But honesty prevailed. Settlement reached. Reputations scarred but standing. Healing's dawn broke. Spring's first crocus pushing through frost. March's tentative sun coaxed green from the earth. Seattle shaking off scandal's chill like a dog from the sound. Roman and Elias emerging tempered steel. The center stabilized. Enrollment rebounding as parents saw transparency's fruit. Jamal's cohort expanding. Murals now city landmarks. Roman's keynotes multiplied. Authenticity his hallmark. Audiences from Boston to Boise leaning in. Elias's series pivoted to resilience narratives. Episodes featuring survivors' art. Roman's visuals pulsing heartbeat. Summer 2031 shimmered redemptive. A comeback retreat in the San Juans. Fully booked. Yurts filled with faces familiar and new. Bonfires crackled testimonies. Roman sketching live portraits. Elias facilitating circles where pain transmuted to power. One participant, a trans elder named Lee, shared, "Your story gave me mine." Tears communal. Hands linking under stars. Personal rebirth flowered. Roman met Theo, not the ex-husband Echo, but a bookseller from third place with salt-streaked hair and dog-eared Kerouac. Shelves his sanctuary. Dates unfolded in lit nooks. Poetry readings at open books. Verses whispering futures. Picnics at Kubota Garden. Koi rippling under bridges as they dreamed. Theo's steadiness complimented. "You've mapped storms. Let's chart calms," he said, fingers interlacing. Elias cheered from sidelines, dating a violinist named Nora, her bows drawing melodies from his silences. Double dates at jazz dens in Jackson Place. Quartets improvising as they toasted evolutions. Full circle, Elias murmured over sax solos. Roman nodded, Circle complete. Fall's bounty harvested growth. Co-authored sequel. Resonant maps. Bestseller lists climbed. Tours blending panels and signings. In Chicago's brisk winds, bookending a reading, they reflected, from fracture to foundation. Applause thundered. Partnership profound. Winter wrapped gently. Solstice gathering grand. Extended families mingling. Mom's pozole simmering beside Nora's lax. Dad and Theo bonding over chess. Toasts layered to survivals, to solidarities. Elias pulled Roman aside. I soft. You saved me. More than therapy ever could. Roman hugged. Throat tight. Mutual. Always. Spring 2032 crested climaxes echo. A national award for community impact. Gala in DC's cherry blossom haze. Roman and Elias on stage. Statuettes gleaming. Speech duet wove their arc. Betrayal's blaze forging light. Healing isn't solitary, Roman concluded. It's shared. Scarred. Sacred. Summer sealed legacies. Center's new wing dedicated. Plaque reading. For those who map their own stars. Jamal's scholarship speech. Roman showed us paths. Elias's practice innovated peer support models. Ripples widening. Through it, their bond endured not lovers, but lifelines, chosen kin in a world of waves. Roman and Theo built slow, a home in Wallingford, garden plots and gallery walls, vows exchanged under autumn oaks. Elias best man. Words, love's the truest therapy. Elias and Nora followed, strings and stories entwining. Roman toasting, to healing's harmony. Years layered. Roman's art museums bound. Elias's influence academies. But roots remained Seattle's soil. Rain nourishing. Storms shaping. In quiet moments, like waterfront benches at golden hour, they'd sit, sound sighing. Worth the wreck? Elias once asked. Roman smiled, hand on shoulder. Every scar, the journey, from therapist's chair to shared horizon, affirmed, we heal not despite breaks, but through them humane, whole.